So remember that part of intimacy when we're talking about the spark. So when we're talking about a spark, what does that even mean? Earlier I asked you, what is a spark? What does the spark mean? So over the years and throughout the research and the observation that I do in my practice on the green couch, I realized that when people are talking about that spark, they're talking about motivation. They're talking about desire. They're talking about the outcomes to their expectation. And when we're talking about desire, there are two types of desire that happens, and this is sexual desire. And I like to say, just like Dr. Emily Nagoski, that desire is our motivation for sex. What actually motivates you to want to have sex? Oftentimes, people will get into ruts and they're like, oh, we haven't had sex in a week. We haven't had sex in a year. And when Oprah called me, remember 5 years ago when Oprah called me and asked me about this, I was like, the research basically says, how often do you think people in long-term relationships have sex? Once a month. What else? Twice a week? Yeah. Twice a week. What else? Once a week. So the research actually says that people in long-term relationships, 3 years or longer, usually have sex once a week or less. And the research further shows that even if they had sex more, that it does not necessarily improve the quality of their relationship. So the quantity of sex does not improve the quality of your relationship, isn't it? Because sex is not the driver of successful relationships. It's not the only thing that determines relationship satisfaction. So when we're talking about desire, we're talking about two things. We're talking about spontaneous and we're talking about responsive. Now, if you have a penis, how many people have a penis in here, right? I told you this is not your average sex talk. So if you have a penis, you might have more spontaneous. You might wake up and you might have an erection. And if you have a vulva and a vagina, you might have more responsive desire. So if I ask many of you in here, if I had a picture, remember what the God man said yesterday, so keep that in mind when I say this. If I had a picture of everyone's genitals and we had it going across a straight line in here, right? How many of you would be able to go and pick yours up out of a lineup? Most of the penises would. The people with the penises would be able to. Most of the people with the vulvas and the vaginas, they don't, because they don't look at it as much, right? So what's your motivation? When we're talking about, we want to have more sex. We want to improve the spark in our relationship. It reminds me of Lisa when she came in my office once and she was like, Shamyra, we did everything. We got the lingerie, we did the role play, we read the books. And we still are in the same place. We still have no connection. We still feel like roommates. Nothing has changed. And it's been 8 years, and I just realized that I don't even like having the sex that we're having. Bingo. How'd you realize it? Well, after all of the work that we've done, it was uncovered that, did you tell him? No. No. So what did you do? Just whatever, we just keep doing it. Well, what makes you want to have sex with him? I don't know. And many people don't know their motivation to have sex. And so they'll say stuff like this. Oh, I got low sexual desire. I'm like, do you? How you know? Because I don't want to have sex the same time as my partner. I wish I could have sex as often as my partner has sex, but I have low sexual desire. And I'm like, okay, tell me about the low sexual desire you have. Like, you've always had low sexual desire. What does that mean? No, I just don't want to have it when they want to have it. And they get mad at me because they want to have it. And I'm like, okay. So, and I feel bad because I don't want to have it when they want to have it. So you're feeling guilty because you've been rejecting your partner. And they're feeling rejected because you've been rejecting them. And so there's this cycle that happens, right? The person who has the lower sexual desire controls the sexual relationship. We know that, right? Is that fair? I mean, I don't know if we want to look at it in terms of what's fair or not, but we definitely want to look at it in terms of what can we do to get on the same page. And sometimes that's not going to look like having sex when your partner wants to have sex. Sometimes that's going to look like figuring out what type of sex are you having and do you like it? When people, I'm going to tell y'all something, whenever people come in and they'll tell me, especially a lot of men, they'll come in and they'll say, oh, she stopped having sex with me. I automatically start judging it. I'm like, oh, I already know what's going on in the relationship. I already got it. She didn't stop having sex with you because the sex was great. Oh, oops. People don't stop. Do you stop eating chocolate chip cookies because they're just so amazing? Like, oh my God, these are so good, I'm just never gonna eat these again in my life. People don't give up the stuff they like because they like it, right? It's hard though to communicate that. It's hard to tell a partner, I don't like the sex we're having. It's hard to tell a partner, I'm not turned on when we're having sex. Especially when your partner is a man. And so what I do want to preface this by saying, just like all of the men that I live with, like my kids and my husband, some of you are, and not just men, but some of you gonna get like, Shamyra, sit your ass down. Some of y'all gonna be wanting me to sit down, but for some of the stuff I'm gonna be saying, some of y'all gonna want me to stand on the table. And so I want you to sit with that, all right? Some of you are going to be like, okay, some of you are gonna be like, I knew that with some of this stuff, but this is not, I don't want us to get into a gender wars with this because this is not a gender war type of situation. Whenever there is a sexual issue in the relationship, it is not one person's issue, it's the relationship's issue. So if your partner has low sexual desire, you're like, oh man, they don't never want to have sex with me. That's on them. That's their problem. No, it's not, because you want to have sex, right? It's the relationship's problem. So when we're talking about desire, we're talking about what is your motivation to have sex. How many of you know what your motivation to have sex is? Outside of a naked body. Some people do. Who does not know their motivation to have sex? Are you embarrassed to say it? Who's embarrassed to say that they don't know their motivation to have sex? I got you, I feel it. So, some people's motivation to have sex is a body. I see a body that's attractive, and that's my motivation. I have a partner that I live with, that I'm married to, that I'm coupled with, and that's my motivation. That's some people's motivation. Their desire is spontaneous. I see you, I want you, right? Other people's, especially women's, their desire is responsive. That means they need more attention to feel desire, right? They need more attention to feel that motivation. Because that's just the way our bodies are set up. People think that a lot of women just are not, like, they're not wanting to have sex because they just are just like, oh, I'm just that type of person today. I'm just gonna tell you no. There's a newsflash. Women like having sex when the sex is pleasurable. Their responsive motivation is predicated on the amount of pleasure that they anticipate. And what is happening to put them in a space to want to have sex? So what is happening, or what needs to happen to put you in a space to want to have sex? You need more attention. I call this ETZ. My partner always initiates sex at 11 p.m. I have to wake up at 4 a.m. I got to get the kids up, get them dressed, get myself up, get dressed, get out the door, and have everybody at daycare for 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. My partner has to get up and go to work. Then when I get home, I have to pick up all the kids, get home, do homework, do all of the things, and then the only interaction I had with my partner throughout the day was, hey, did you see the water bill? Did you pay the bill? Hey, what are we having for dinner? And here comes 11 p.m. and it's, you know what the knock is? That little push up on and then I'm like, oh, back up off of me. It's 11 o'clock, I don't do that. So that could be an easy fix depending on what else is going on in the relationship. And I call this easy fix knowing your ETZ, your erotic time zone, right? Some people just have to shift the time that they have sex. 11 p.m., catch me at 6 in the morning. I'm gonna be ready. And so for some people, it's just that type of shift. For other people, they are carrying on. We have to consider the labor that they're carrying. So they need help with the labor, and not only the physical labor. One of the bigger issues is the invisible labor that people are carrying, right? Who's making all the doctor's appointments? Who's remembering dates, birthdays, teachers' names, teachers' appreciation gifts, birthday parties, play dates, That invisible labor, all of that stuff counts. And that's heavy. And so a person, they have work, they have all of these other things. And then guess what they have? A partner who wants them to bend over and bust it open for them after they had to do all of this stuff with no help or minimal help. But the partner's like, but you have a bed, but I paid the bills, but the lights are paid. Oh, congratulations. Thank you for being a great person. I appreciate that. Like, what you want for that? Like, that's what we do, but also, can we talk about how we can collaborate on this other stuff? But instead of us asking our partners for help, we don't. We carry the burden and we walk around with attitudes. And guess what that does for our desire? It makes it wane even more. So the antidote for responsive desire is knowing that you need more attention. And that attention can be physical attention, that attention can be labor-intensive attention, and most of the time that attention is a conversation about what's actually going on, what your needs are, and paying attention to the shifts. Because with desire, you're going to have different types of shifts. Unfortunately, we're not responsible for how we were created. And there are shifts that happen to you as men and to us as women that we have to account for when we're talking about sex. There are physical shifts, there are physiological shifts, emotional shifts, the biological shifts. All types of shifts are happening, and if you just saw 40 and 50-year-old, there are so many 40 and 50-year-old people in here, especially women, they're going through a big shift right now. Who knows what that shift is? Do you see the hands? They hot. I'm sweating. Okay? They're going through a hormonal shift where their body is saying, guess what? No more kids. Who said that? That's somebody that knows about perimenopause. No more kids. So I'm going to deplete you of all the hormones that you had in your body that was responsible for reproduction. And with that, I'm going to make you fat. And with that, I'm going to make your vulva and your vagina dry and itchy and rough. Y'all know? Yes. Okay? And with that, I'm going to make sure you never get a good night's sleep again. And also with that, I'm going to make sure your back, legs, stomach, eyes, ears, fingers hurt. I'm going to make sure your ears are always ringing. Hello, symptoms of perimenopause. Okay, so yeah, these are some symptoms that women in perimenopause are experiencing. So imagine she laying there sweating. You think she wet. She is sweating. She is hot, but not like that. She's hot and ready for the first shower of the night because she has sweat all night. And you're like, hey, and she's like, hey. Like, I am like not okay with this. And she's going through all of these mood changes and shift changes and then trying to get a doctor on board to figure out what's going on. And so that's some sex shifts. But also, what we also don't know is that andropause is a thing too. Have y'all heard of that? Men, y'all going through the same things in a different way though. So we're losing estrogen, we're losing testosterone, right? It's decreasing, it's going away, and what the new research is telling us is that with these losses in hormones is that our bodies are responding to this in so many ways. The brain fog is so thick sometimes we might not even remember how to have sex in the middle of it. It's a joke. I hope y'all not doing that. But men are also experiencing some issues with testosterone. One of the main things that's happening with both of these shifts is that people aren't really communicating this with their partners as much. One reason, because they feel like they've communicated it enough and now you should know. I've already told you all the things and so now you should know. And the other is, I'm not telling you anything else because what's going to be done about it? Okay? And so this is where we shift our focus when we're talking about desire. We have to change directions. Because if your partner doesn't know what you're experiencing or if they don't care to fix it, then we have to figure out what does that mean for the sexual relationship.